what you have to do is land something on the tail of a comet, and we'll be able to get a playoff system in Division I NCAA, and that's what's happened,
Makes
right, Bruce Feldman?
sense.
Isn't that the way it worked, or did I mix it up? It's the playoffs, then land something on the tail of a comet, right? You there, Bruce?
Remarkably a far-fetched scenario that's playing out now.
Don't you think, Bruce? I mean, if it goes playoffs, tail of a comet. What's next? I mean, what's next? 8 teams, right? That's what's next.
That's coming, yeah. I think that's coming, especially, Rich, if you get some of these power conferences feel like they got snubbed as this plays out. I mean, there's some people, some powerful people in college athletics who are ripe to probably get really ticked off in a couple of weeks when the real final pairings for the Final Four come out.
So who might that be when it all comes down to it, Bruce Feldman?
I don't think Jim Delaney from the Big Ten is going to be a happy guy. You know, you have a huge brand school. Your alma mater's arch rival, Ohio State. They may be the most improved team from the start of the season to now. But you look at their resume, they have a really good win at Michigan State, but that's about it. And they're not going to have a lot of other opportunities to, I think, impress people, whereas the school you just mentioned, TCU, who came way off the radar, was not very good last year, had some staff changes on the offensive side of the ball. Boykin is playing really well, and they got a bunch of impressive wins. And now they're in the mix of this. You know, they beat Oklahoma. They beat Oklahoma State when they were ranked, although they're not anymore. Went to West Virginia, beat them. Had a nice win last week where they were pretty dominant against K-State. The problem for them is Baylor did beat them, and I think at the end of this all, when Baylor plays K-State, I think Baylor, because they got the head-to-head, is going to end up leapfrogging TCU. But the fact that we're talking about both of those schools, I think, is pretty remarkable. I mean, that's almost as remarkable. I mean, Baylor in a playoff is probably sounds as crazy as a playoff actually in college football would have 5 years ago.
Bruce Feldman's latest book, The QB, Making of the Modern Quarterback, is available in bookstores and Amazon.com right now. Oregon's off this week, so all eyes obviously on the SEC with Mississippi State against Alabama. How does that play out in your estimation, Bruce?
You know, I think it's at Alabama. Alabama has been very inconsistent this year, home, away. Blake Sims is the first-year starter. His quarterback rating is like 209 at home, but away it's around 120. And granted, they played their tougher opponents away. But I think this is the end of Mississippi State's perfect season. I just think Alabama has more firepower on offense. They have probably the best player on the field, Amari Cooper. They have a couple of, real physical running backs. The two things I would say are worth Mississippi State fans holding their hopes up are, A, Nick Saban has had a hard time with mobile quarterbacks, not just Johnny Manziel. Earlier this year, Josh Dobbs from Tennessee even gave him a problem, and Dak Prescott can really run. And the other thing is, Alabama is coming off a really physical game last week against LSU, whereas Mississippi State had kind of a cupcake last week, so maybe they'll come in there healthier. But ultimately, I'm not betting against Nick Saban at home.
So your book, for those who are unfamiliar with it, what is it about, Bruce?
Well, you have the most important position in all of sports, the most glamorous position, but it's the one that people have always been mystified by. How do they evaluate it? How do they get it right? You see all these draft busts. So I really wanted to get inside the process. And was fortunate enough to kind of go behind the scenes because you have all these private quarterback coaches who've sprung up. Now we see George Whitfield is everywhere. He's on College Game Day every Saturday. He's Johnny Manziel's guy. He's Cam Newton's guy. You can't watch a game in college football without seeing a George Whitfield guy, and he came out of nowhere. One of the guys you know really well, Trent Dilfer, Super Bowl winning quarterback and longtime former NFL guy, is really at the forefront of this. And he's the guy who took over the Elite 11, which is a high school program for like the top quarterbacks in the country. And Dilfer was a fascinating guy to write about because he is brutally honest about his own failures and haunted by them, as he says, and really felt like a lot of the stuff that he had been taught, even at the highest level, was fundamentally wrong. And so he's gone back and done incredible amount of study about teaching quarterbacks. And so you have kind of this kind of a clash of all these things coming together and is able to focus in behind the scenes on what they do. But also one of the other storylines through the book is Johnny Manziel and how he emerges from all this. And I was fortunate I had behind the scenes access all the way with Texas A&M, and then I had it with with Whitfield and Kevin O'Connell as they trained Manziel for the draft. So I really felt like I got some really good stuff, and got some good stuff from the Manning camp, got some great stuff from Aaron Rodgers about how, he really had to develop and taught himself. So I feel really good about the book.
Thank you, Bruce, for calling in. Congratulations on the book, and would love to have you back on as we matriculate down the college football season.
Sounds great. Thanks, Rich.
You bet. That's Bruce Feldman of Fox Sports. Get his book, the QB, The Making of the Modern Quarterback.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern. On Audience.